Welcome to the Big Week in Gaming podcast. And what do you know? It's been a big week in gaming. I'm Intergot for episode 94 on Sunday, the 28th of August, 2022. In this week's show, we'll be discussing all the big game reveals from Gamescom, including Swinny's dream announcement. PlayStation have revealed their snazzy new DualSense Edge Pro controller. We try out Splatoon 3's big world premiere, and lots of juicy Analogue Pocket news.
Shut up! Bigwig's on the radio! Shut up! It's Gaming Focused Audio!
As always, I'm joined by the illustrious Swinny.
Illustrious I am.
And we are one member down. He is down with a combination of monkeypox, Chinese coronavirus, chickenpox, and AIDS. So we're hoping that Mike is well.
I think you've just flagged our video for about 10 separate things there.
I hope that the music over the top of it is going to distort my voice enough.
The music that I can't hear, so I'm like, You know how awkward it is to have to pretend that you're hearing something?
Yeah, I gotta reinstall the drivers since that you guys whinge about it every time.
I normally don't whinge. It's just I just realized that I'm like, wow, it's super weird to have to pretend you're listening to something, or like I don't have to pretend, but it's like weird for me just sit here, you know.
That's true. I did notice you're trying to bop to the beat, but then we've got a subtle delay as well, so it doesn't work at all.
Hey, I'll be able to see if I actually got the beat, even though I didn't hear it.
That's true.
Was I on tempo?
You were pretty good, actually. Pretty good.
My mind, that shut up.
The internal beat that you have in your mind. So this week's show, big one. So we've actually removed our normal banter section of what we've been playing, which we did actually talk about offline, strangely enough. So maybe we should have just recorded it anyway. But if you do want to join our Discord, like and subscribe to our videos, do all that jazz, go to bigwigpod.com or check out all the links in the description below. Swinny, no hype, no community section, no corrections, no questions. This is a lean show.
It's nothing. It's absolute sweet FA. That's what there is.
It's the raw brutality.
I've got it in the note at the end of the show, but I guess maybe I'll reveal to you that I'm actually considering doing a new top 10 feature.
A new feature.
A top 10 feature. You know, there's such a novel idea. Nobody's ever done it before.
Very original.
The topic that I'm hoping to do it on, which I'll speak to you a bit offline because you don't know about it, I think should be an interesting one. A bit unique. So unique's a hard thing. Every top 10's been done, but something that's very relevant to my interests. So I think,
I wonder what will come first. Like, is this imminent or is this like on the horizon?
Well, I've started work on it. So the thing is this kind of thing where we can slot in any show where it's we don't have anything planned. So it's not. It'd be what they call evergreen content.
Evergreen content.
Evergreen. Yes.
Because I've still got my Japanese trip coming up. They're just waiting for the visa stuff to change in Japan. Then I can complete my playing of every single Mario Kart game. Then I can legitimately do a tier list of Mario Kart games.
You know, I was driving the other day and I randomly went to Spotify and I just scrolled through the whole list of episodes. I'm like, just play me an old episode that we did, right?
Yeah.
And it was a long time ago, this episode. On that episode in the intro, you were talking about doing this Mario Kart tier list. And I'm thinking that this motherfucker, I get it, right? I get that you have to, like I'm the same, like I want to cover everything, but this has holds you back. That was over a year ago, that podcast.
That's okay.
I'm fairly certain.
I'm extremely patient.
You should have just done it. Christ.
No. It's incomplete. I've played all of the available Mario Karts. I played the Mario Kart arcade games in the arcades, but there is a Mario Kart VR game that I've not yet to play. And it's only 3 places in the whole world that you can play it, and Australia is not one of them. So.
And here is our show just absolutely starving for content, but, you're not giving it. So.
True. Do you know what would be hilarious if I do go to Japan and then it's like some kind of COVID rule, you can't do the Mario Kart VR thing, I'd be devastated.
Well, do you even know if those, will those arcade machines actually be around by the time you get there?
Oh, I'm going in the next 6 to 12 months.
So do you know that they're there right now? Do you have got tabs on that?
Oh, don't say that. You're worrying me now. And actually, I want to get clarity from you. So at Super Nintendo World in Japan, there's a Mario Kart ride.
Oh, come on.
Now,
come on.
Obviously, I'm going to go to Super Nintendo World. If I go to Japan, I'm going to the Super Nintendo World. But should I include it on the tier list?
Oh, you can include if you want,
Okay.
but to say that you'd that would have had to been done to have a complete Mario Kart tier list,
I think it does.
would have been ridiculous.
I think it does.
That's next level ridiculous.
But you have to say, who else has done a tier list of everything, including the ride?
I don't know. Have you looked at? There's probably, there's probably some Mario Kart fan channels out there that are absolutely obsessed with this stuff that probably might have done that. It wouldn't surprise me.
Do you know what the funniest thing would be is that if I did this Mario Kart tier list and it just shot up to be like the most popular content we ever did, and it's been built up over a year or two, and it pays off, you'd be so pissed. But you'd like it.
Well, I'm going to challenge you to do a tier list, you or Mike, if you're listening, to do a tier list that gets more views than my Kemco tier list. So,
that'd be really hard.
That's a challenge. That's a challenge. Not that video is in the drop of YouTube. That's nothing. But for our channel, it's pretty big. So you guys have to beat that. That's my challenge to you guys.
Can I go all business minded as I do and try to cheat my way to victory?
Are you going to rename our top clip to Mario Kart tier list?
No,
our Mario reaction video is now Mario Kart tier list.
No, I figure
by
that
title only.
I figure then when Monster Hunter 6 comes out, if I just do a weapon tier list, and I just put whatever content in there, that it will get thousands of views. That's probably true. Because people are searching the shit out of that stuff. So I don't know. Maybe I could do that. But no questions this week, Swinny?
No,
questions?
because we wanted to keep this a nice and tight intro, and that has not been achieved.
It's pretty tight. It's a nice 5 to 7 minutes.
Mario Kart tier lists.
All right, then. Well, let's jump into what we've been playing. And only one thing we'll mention is that we played Splatoon 3 through the world premiere today. So
We did.
I have played a bunch of Splatoon 2. Obviously, we didn't have any hands-on with Splatoon 3, but we played the world premiere. And Swinny's a bit of a relatively newbie with Splatoon. So I'm kind of keen to hear what you thought of it. And then I'll share my thoughts as well.
Cool. Well, I guess if I'm starting off, then so I am very new to the series. I probably only played Splatoon 2. I think it was a free play weekend.
Yeah, it was a free weekend, I think.
And I probably only played it for maybe an hour and a half max. But that was enough to get a taste of what the game is in terms of just how the flow of the game felt and everything like that. So I'm still very new. So what I really wanted to, I guess, get out of this world premiere, demo essentially that they had out today, was just to basically say, okay, well, is this a game that I would be willing to spend, a full price on as a new release, or a game that I'd be interested in playing as an ongoing thing? And look, it's great fun, of course. It's Splatoon. No surprise that it's a really, really well-made game, and it's just, it's definitely very unique in its style in Nintendo's catalog, but it's still got that Nintendo charm to it, which I think is it's very hard to replicate. It's something almost inherent in the stuff that they put out. But look, I had a blast. How about you, what's your initial thoughts?
Yeah, I think as much as people will say, and we've got to also be clear that we only got to play Turf Wars, so that's the multiplayer content, the main multiplayer content. And then also it was a part of the global Splatfest. So it's the new tricolor turf war style. So we'll come to those things, but we didn't play the single player. We didn't play all the other content. We didn't play the new mini game, separate game, multiplayer game that is in the content. So we can't judge those things. And from my perspective, as much as people criticize Splatoon 2 as being Splatoon 1.5, so far, I could totally imagine people making and mounting the exact same argument that this is Splatoon 2.5. But honestly, I'm all for it. It's been 5 years since Splatoon 2 came out. I think it's a massive shot in the arm for the game. You know, there'll be a whole new set of weapons, maps, everything like that, sort of new coat of paint, which honestly, I don't think that's a bad thing. Because like, if you look at the Call of Duty sort of, you know, series, every year there's a new game that comes out, reinvigorates the community, you know, does gangbusters. Like I'm fully expecting this game to sell well, to do well, Japan get really behind it. And everything I've seen so far just seems very, very good. And there's some changes, albeit I'd love if they go deeper. There's some very critical things that they've changed in Splatoon 3 that to me, like, were really kind of, you know, impinging on me actually enjoying the game, like, going forward. Like, I remember when you jumped on to play Splatoon 2, there's like no proper lobby system at all in Splatoon 2. And it's like, it's almost embarrassing, like, as someone who loves Splatoon. And then it's like, oh, come and play Splatoon. And then it's like, how do I join your, like, team? It's like, oh, well, no, because we don't have 4 people exactly. We kind of can't do that. And you're like, what the hell? What do you mean? Like, isn't it like Rocket League, or isn't it like Halo 3, which we played like 10 years ago? It's like, oh, no. And I think this goes a lot closer to where we need to be. And I think it's past the threshold of like useful, but it's not even as good as Halo 3. Let's be clear, right? So there is a pseudo, from what we see in how it worked in the world premiere, there is a pseudo, you know, party system, but it's attached to the game mode that you're playing. So like we even experienced that when we were playing Turf War, and I'm like, oh, let's flip out to go play the Tricolor Turf War, which is a part of the Splatfest, which I really wanted to check out. And it was like, there's no way to do it. Like you basically have to kill it and then create a new room. So it's just, I don't know, it just feels very archaic from those perspectives. But yeah, like, you know, the new Tricolor Splatfest is awesome. It didn't work the way I thought it would. Like when we jumped in, we thought it was going to be 4. So you get to pick of one of 3 teams. We thought it was going to be all the 3 teams against each other, 4v4v4, with the middle team just getting decimated in the middle. And it's actually 2 of the reps of the losing team, one of the losing teams, another 2 reps of a different losing team, and then 4 of the winning team in the middle. Now, having played a lot more of that, even with you, Swinny, and without, I think it would be so unbalanced if it was 4 on either side attacking the flanks of the folks in the middle. Because even with 2 on either side, I do think an organized team, it's very hard to win. It's very hard to win if you're in the middle. Like if the two people on the sides are organized, because like they shouldn't be attacking each other at all. And they've just got like a starting position of like, they can rank up the points pretty quickly. So, but it's an awesome mode. I love the new mode. And I think it's really smart actually that it's only the Splatfest that you can play the Tricolor mode. It won't wear out. I'll be looking forward to whenever the next Splatfest happens. This time it was rock, paper, scissors. I picked paper, so then Swinny copied because, you know, we'd be on the same team then at least. And I don't know. Yeah, like it's going to finish at 10 p.m. Australian time. So who knows who's going to win. But the other thing that I should mention is with Splatoon 2, Australia was a part of the Japanese region, which was kind of like a bit annoying because it never felt like it was really snappy, the latency of the game, but you'd always get a game. Whereas this one, it's Australia, New Zealand, Hong Kong and South Korea. That's our region, which is very weird. But I'm really struggling to find a game sometimes. Like I waited 10 minutes and took a screenshot and I couldn't get a game. So I don't know. I'm very worried that it's going to have the same sort of, it seems better so far than netcode, but not dramatically better, unfortunately. So
yeah, it's one thing I wasn't sure about. So we played the 3-color Splatfest mode, and we were always playing the same map. Was that just because the world premiere was just really limited to that single map? Was that the case, or?
I think there are other maps for it, but one thing with the Splatfest is they typically have a specific map that they use for the Splatfest. So they've had that in the past. Like they'll have special maps that they use. So I think it's more of an element of that than anything else.
Yeah. Okay.
But I'm loving it so far. Like, I don't know why I'm very compelled to try to max rank my character in the Splatfest, even though it doesn't carry over into the main game. I know you're not like across all the details of Splatoon, but when you play the Splatfest, you actually get like these clamshell things that you can then alter your gear. So it's actually worthwhile completing the Splatfest because your gear has like passive buffs that you can actually like improve how you play. So Yeah, like, but it doesn't even carry over, so there's no point in me worrying about it. But I don't know, I'm very compelled to do it. But I'm looking forward to it. I've taken the day off to play Splatoon 3, so when it comes out in about 2 weeks' time. So yeah, I'm really pumped for it, man.
Yeah, great fun. I still think I'm a little on the fence on whether or not it's a game I would pick up and play all the time. And part of it's not so much the game itself, because I think the game is a great one for that. I think it's more just my playing habits these days.
Yeah,
it's just not. It's something where I've just got to justify whether or not it's worth dropping that amount of money for a game that I don't know if I played all the time. Whereas, so I think maybe, seeing how the single player stuff kind of pans out in reviews and stuff is something that I'm interested to see, because while I know that's not the main focus of the game, maybe that could draw me in and kind of, be a good companion piece against the actual online multiplayer. So.
Yeah, and I'm really looking forward to playing the new mini games and the other sort of components of the game as well. So for me, it's like super happy that like how the game feels and everything like that. It's not dramatically different. It feels very much like, you could almost argue it feels like Splatoon 1.75 or 1.9 or something like that. But again, I remember playing Splatoon on the Wii U, and it's a freaking awesome game, man. Like, they kind of hit it out of the park on day one with that, and it's not a shock to me that it's one of the biggest franchises now. Like, even though it's Nintendo's newest franchise, and you've got 3 games in the space of about 7 years now, some ballpark like that, 7-8 years, which is kind of a bit un-Nintendo like for the grand scheme of it, but yeah, like I'm really looking forward to it. I love the art style, the music, all of it was there in the world premiere, and I don't know, like depending on when we finish up the show, I think it's a long one though, I might try to sneak in a couple of extra games before the 10 p.m. cutoff tonight.
You're probably going to be playing the next segment while I'm talking about stuff.
Yeah, I should actually. If I was Mike, I would definitely do that. I'd definitely do that. But speaking of which, that's a good segue. Mike, pay attention. I throw it to you, Swinny.
Yeah, so we're going to be talking a lot about Gamescom, or the opening night live reveals and news that came out of it. We weren't sure what to expect.
Probably should have streamed it.
I should have probably thought in my head there's a bunch of kind of things from European developers that may be announced, and one of them was one of the big things I've been looking forward to the most, which was Deck 13's next game. So even going back to our predictions for, I think it was E3 last year, I think it was.
It was.
I'd been predicting, I really want to know what their next game is. I know they're working on stuff. Anyone doesn't know Deck 13, they're a developer based in Germany, and they're well known for their action RPGs and recently their Souls-likes. So, they really kicked off their kind of, their Souls-like journey with Lords of the Fallen, which, funnily enough, we'll be talking about next. And the Surge games. And the Surge games are the ones that I think really staked their claim in the industry as, as really, really a developer to, really look out for. And the Surge 2 is one of my favorite in that style of game. But they announced their next game, which is Atlas Fallen. So... Yeah, it's interesting because, like I said, when we talk about Lords of the Fallen and Atlas Fallen, it's like, yeah, okay, it's very similar, but that's fine. Like, I'll actually, about the name stuff, I'll come back to it, but there's an interesting note about the name of the game later that I'll mention. But yeah, so their last game was The Surge 2 in 2019, and Atlas Fallen is coming next year for PC, PS5, and Xbox Series X. And the trailer was honestly from a budget-wise, a very impressive CG trailer. So I have a feeling that they've probably gotten a good budget for this game. With a snippet of gameplay in the last few seconds, which are like, I want to see more because, I think I've actually watched some people kind of, react to this trailer, and I think that last snippet of gameplay is like what hooked them. Because it's like, actually, that looks really cool, So interestingly, the media did actually get a good look behind closed doors at the actual gameplay. So basically, thanks to Simon Cardy of IGN, who's actually a pretty cool dude. I've listened to a lot of him on podcasts and stuff, but he actually did a good write-up over at IGN where basically saying that it is an action RPG, but it is not so much a Souls-like this time. So it's the combat style. It's much more fluid. I have no idea if there's a stamina system or anything like that. He didn't say anything about that. But it is much closer to something like your Nier Automata or, games that have a much faster, fluid combat style than a more deliberate Souls-like the Surge games or Lords of the Fallen. And it is basically like in a semi-open world, and he likened it to Nier Automata in that sense, where it's not a massive open world, or at least what he saw, but it's kind of got the elements of you can explore and roam around and stuff, which I'm all for, definitely. And yeah, basically in terms of gameplay, so you've got a gauntlet, and that gauntlet is all based around sand, and you basically use that to wield 3 different weapon types made out of sand, and then you can swap between those weapon types mid combos and combat and everything. So I think there's like a sword whip, there's a massive hammer, there's a fist weapon. So think of it like your God of War style, where you can, or at least the old ones, because I'm not familiar with the newer God of Wars, but basically you can really swap between the different styles, weapons, mid combos, and stuff like that. But yeah, and interestingly, they talked about this kind of passive meter system that's really based on risk reward. So you build up this meter during combat, and as you build it up, it unlocks further and further combat abilities. But the more you build it up, the more vulnerable you are, and the more damage you can take. So it's all about, okay, I'm going to be aggressive, but it really heightens the risk. So it's going to be interesting to see how that pans out. That's very much a Bloodborne approach of, hey, I need to be aggressive in this style of combat, rather than I'm going to sit here behind a shield like your Dark Souls style.
Which is interesting, right? Because I feel like more and more games are doing that push forward combat, exactly what you're saying. Like Doom Eternal is a good example, Doom as well. But Doom Eternal lent in even further. It was like you had to be aggressive or else you wouldn't succeed. Same as what you're saying with Bloodborne. I always prefer like a good balanced approach where if you defend too much, it will penalize you, but it allows you to sort of play back and forth. But at least it's more fun, I do admit. Like a more aggressive style. Even to me, Elden Ring felt more like on the aggressive end. Like you had to, like you were rewarded much more if you kind of went a bit more aggressive in that.
And one of the cool elements that you did see in that snippet of gameplay at the end of the trailer was the ability to actually like traverse around the world by gliding across like sand dunes and things like that. And it reminds me of almost like Journey, where, that feeling of like gliding down a sand dune. It looked cool. And if they get the feeling right in the game feel of it, then I think that can be possibly, one of the big hooks of the game is just, hey, this feels cool to move around the world. And they, the whole sand plays into the gameplay elements where apparently you can raise structures out of the sand and stuff. And it's funny, this whole emphasis on sand, because my prediction around, Deck 13's game is, it could be like an Egyptian Souls-like with aliens and stuff. It's obviously not based in Egypt, but hey, at least the sand elements there.
I give you credit, man. No, don't take the win from yourself, man. Like, to be honest, I feel like if this was called Egypt something and you changed nothing else in the trailer, you'd be like, yeah, okay, I can see it.
So one tidbit that most people aren't reporting around, because I can understand the nature of it, is, so I was looking for imagery so we can, use for the thumbnail for this and stuff. And I was on the PlayStation blog, and interestingly, if you click on the images on the PlayStation blog, there's text at the bottom of the images, like production text. And it says, concept era rise from the dust. And I'm like, wow, does this still have the previous name of this working title of this game? Then I Googled that title.
Yeah, which I'm doing now.
That title was in the GeForce Now leak attached to Deck 13's name. So even though I'd been wanting to know more about Deck 13's next game, because I'd never really looked in the GeForce Now leak, because I'm like, I just don't want to know, because like, sometimes you want to be surprised by stuff.
Oh yeah,
right?
I'm very much like that.
But so that name was out there a long time ago, as in this credible leak, which at this point is all confirmed.
That leak is like 1,000%.
Yeah.
confirmed.
So interestingly, this game used to be called Era Rise from the Dust, and I don't know, I kind of like that name. Honestly, to me it's got a bit more of a hook to it. But well, yeah. Ultimately, I think the game itself is what's most important, and I'm really looking forward to this. Deck 13 just going strength to strength these days. So
Yeah, definitely. Nice. All right. Well, let's get on to another one of your faves. What is this? Is the or number 2, or what is this? What is this game?
Yeah, so the reason why these are next to each other is because this is also related to Deck 13, because The Lords of the Fallen, the sequel, reboot, trailer, spiritual sequel, I'll explain that a little bit in a second, but The Lords of the Fallen had a trailer reveal, and Deck 13 made the original Lords of the Fallen game. So it is very weird that these two stories were in the same Gamescom opening night live. But basically, this game originally started life as Lords of the Fallen 2, and I'll get into the history of that in a second. But the creative director these days is saying it's a spiritual sequel, but it actually takes place 1,000 years after the events of the first game. So I'm like, so it is a sequel. Saying it's a spiritual sequel is weird because it's not like spiritual sequel to me is, we don't hold the rights to the game and we just want to make a game that is spiritually. This is a legit sequel. But anyway, like they say it's a spiritual sequel, and it is what it is. But from a marketing standpoint, I think it's a good move because it means that, people, the number 2 can often push people away. They're like, I haven't played the first one or whatever. And this is almost like a reboot in a way. But basically, this game is coming to PC, PS5, and Xbox Series X. So for anyone who doesn't know, the original Lords of the Fallen was a 2014 game that came out on Xbox One, PC, and PS4, and actually got a mobile port, weirdly, in 2017. But yeah, it was made by Deck 13 Interactive. It was one of the first Souls clones at the time. And it got a lot of flack for that because it wasn't a thing. These days, Souls-likes are all everywhere. Yeah. But back then it was like, they're just copying Dark Souls. So it got a lot of flack for that because the design was essentially just lifted in. They did add some elements to it, and the game had a very different feel than Dark Souls. It was much chunkier. And a lot of people often call this game Chunky Souls at the time, which is pretty funny.
That's pretty funny.
It found a decent audience. Not everyone loved it. I quite enjoyed it. But it actually ended up being given away as a Games for Gold title in 2016. And so it actually found a bit of a resurgence when that happened. But yeah, so Lords of the Fallen 2, so I mentioned that there is a bit of history with this. So Lords of the Fallen 2 was actually announced back in 2014. And last week we were talking about Dead Island 2. And they're very similar in terms of these games have changed some developers and kind of had this long period in development. But it was announced back in 2014 with a planned release date of 2017. CI Games were handling development, and they're still involved with this. They're the ones I believe, own the IP, but I'm not 100% on that. But they're working alongside a studio named Defiant Studios. So in April 2020, CI Games confirmed that Defiant Studios had been moved on for the project, and then the new studio, Hexworks, based in Bucharest. Is that how you say it? I'm never good with that. Mike would. This is where we need Mike to be able to say that. And Barcelona. So Hexworks are basically, them together with CI Games are now working on this, and it's obviously renamed to The Lords of the Fallen.
Sorry, I got to jump in, because I didn't have a good time before. This is one of the dumbest names, of something that doesn't, I get it if you're up to your 5th or 6th game, and then you start to play around with the this or the Predator, Predators, all this shit. But having this as the second game, even though I get that they're saying it's not a direct sequel, but to call it The Lords of the Fallen, and the original game is called Lords of the Fallen, is so dumb. Sorry, it's a terrible. They should change the name. They should change it to Lords of the Fallen 2. Does anyone complain about Xenoblade Chronicles 2 or 3? They're not all directly linked explicitly as sequels.
Some people did complain about Xenoblade Chronicles X, though. Xenoblade Chronicles X, though, did get a bit of... There was confusion when that game came out because people weren't sure, is it number 2, is it named number 2, and then number 2.
But that's better.
I remember
Lords of the
time.
Fallen X is better than The Lords of the Fallen. Sorry, I just need to say that.
Yeah, I'd prefer The Lords of the Fallen over just calling it Lords of the Fallen again. So many games these days are just using the same name.
But why not just call it Lords
that.
of the Fallen 2?
I agree. I agree. It should be. But basically, The trailer was also pretty damn high budget and actually had Joseph Quinn, who's Eddie from Stranger Things season 4, who's become a bit of a mini sensation with the whole playing Master of Puppets on top of the thing in the show and stuff. But he was narrating the trailer to Danzig's mother, which at first felt like an odd choice, but it kind of mixed in well, I think. But basically, in terms of the game itself, we don't know that much. They have said that the world is 5 times larger than the first game,
not sure about
which, yeah, well, it's like the original Lords of the Fallen had very tightly mapped areas. It was very much in the realm of Dark Souls 1, where, okay, I'm going to unlock another shortcut and open that door, blah, blah. It was all interconnected.
Which I love, man, the design of Dark Souls 1.
Yeah, so basically, this followed in that vein, but saying, well, it's going to be bigger, it's like, well, that doesn't necessarily mean it's better.
Yeah. We're on the page of big is not always better, people, audience, you know.
But the last thing, they said that they have a full gameplay reveal planned for later this year.
Okay, interesting. Yeah, you're just, it's all coming up Swinny. If we did this Gamescom stream, you would have been like, the table would have been lifting. Your head would have bobbed down.
That Deck 13 announcement would
Yeah.
have just floored me. I would have been, holy shit.
That's true. And I would have lost my shit about this announcement, which I was very pumped for. I was hoping would happen. Whilst not an official part of Gamescom, PlayStation did something to reveal during Opening Night Live their rumored DualSense Edge Pro Controller. So touted as the first ever high-performance, ultra-customizable controller developed by Sony Interactive Entertainment. We do not know a release date yet or a price, but you would imagine that would be next calendar year at the earliest and probably the latest. The features will include 2 back buttons, which have got 2 replaceable types. You can remap and deactivate any button mappings, customize stick sensitivity in dead zones, and trigger travel distance. You can save up to 5 controller profiles using the function button on the controller to instantly swap profiles. Changeable stick caps, there's 3 types. Massive replaceable stick modules with different types sold separately. A braided USB-C cable, comes with a case with USB-C charging and retains all other standard DualSense features. Sony, I gotta zoom in on this one. Chef's kiss. This is like, honestly, I literally would not change one single thing. Like I hear people like, why aren't there like 4 back buttons or back paddles? I don't have an Elite controller. I've had controllers that have 1 or 2 buttons at the back. I never ever find myself using 2. Like I would only ever use 1, and I feel like my brain is just not at a stage where I can, press all 4 buttons at the back. So I'm totally comfortable with them just having the 2 at the back. I know you have an Elite controller. What is your sort of perspective on that one?
Yeah, the only time I find having 2 on each side useful is if I'm playing a game where I'm wandering around a lot and I'm like, okay, if I'm navigating this open world a lot, and I just want to rest one of my hands, then it's useful to have 2 in the back there, so you can, have one as an action button, one as a cancel button, whatever. But you don't need them. I think just having a back button on each side is good enough, honestly.
Yeah. So. And I was a big proponent and fan of the DualShock 4 back button attachment. I love that thing. I bought a couple of them actually. And yeah, there was a bit of a shame that they came so late in the cycle. And they're obviously a bit of a test run for Sony in terms of what's the feedback from people? How do they feel about these things? I'd love, they probably got data on it as well. But yeah, man, some of the things that this addresses, and I typically was like, oh, I kind of want the Elite controller because I'd like to just have an Xbox controller at my house. But it's so expensive. And then the thing about it that made me super nervous was the stick drift. That people still get stick drift with the Elite controller, which I don't know, man. Surely they're going to be using the best controller, levers, analog stick levers, and they're still having problems. It's kind of that's bullshit, to be honest. It's like 250 Australian dollars from memory, right? But the fact that you can actually take the whole stick module out of this and just replace it, and if that works how people think, that's insane, dude. I will buy the extra extra like modules just to save at the side, because they won't like, it's not like they will expire or something like that. And it would just be like peace of mind for me, man, because it's like that shit would drive me crazy, like if it starts to drift, because I haven't actually had many drift problems outside of my Switch. Like I've had a pretty good run, but I know that you have.
Yeah, my PS5 controller started drifting within
Insane.
Oh god, like within
20
a
hours
very
or something.
It was a very small amount of time.
Yeah.
Let's just put it that way. So the fact that you can seems like you can replace the whole stick module is a huge thing. I don't, know if that influenced their decision around this, because this stuff is obviously designed a lot of time in advance. But I think this is really cool. I just hope that one of the other issues, and I haven't spoken about this on the show, one of the issues I have with the standard PS5 controller is that the battery life just absolutely fucking sucks.
It sucks, man.
Oh, so bad. So they haven't mentioned anything about whether or not that is going to be different.
I don't reckon.
It's such a shame, because it's like it basically lasts like a quarter of the time that my Xbox controllers do.
Oh, so your Xbox controller lasts a lot longer. Okay, because I don't have an Xbox, right? So the Switch lasts like double or triple the PlayStation.
What I've realized is that part of that's also the controller doesn't go to sleep on maybe the settings I haven't done. It doesn't go to sleep as quickly as the Xbox One. So maybe that's part of it, where I'll put it down, walk away, and I'll almost expect it to kind of just go to sleep, and I'll come back in half an hour. So there's part of that's just maybe just checking if there's settings I don't know about with that. But but look, this is awesome. I think it was a great little thing to announce as part of Gamescom, considering Gamescom that PlayStation weren't there. So the way that the Jeff Keighley, who we did mention, Jeff Keighley was presenting the opening night live. Like it was almost like he had a bit of a grin when he was talking about this. It was pretty funny. So
well, it's a pretty I think when you talk about like hardcore gamers, this is a big deal, right? Like, and you've never had an official OEM first party advanced controller, and people have been waiting for this, been pleading since the Elite controller. And when did the Elite controller come out? It's like 2-3 years ago or more, is it? Because I know there's series 2 of the Elite controller.
Feels like more than 3 years for
really?
Its original, but I'm not sure on that one. So I just want to say that I forget his name. I'm trying to look it up. The guy who actually leaked this original rumored kind of report around this. A bit vindicated on that, because I think like some people like, oh well, this guy, who is this guy and stuff. So he was on the money. They had one in the works. So,
I believed in that guy after the fact. Oh wait, no, that's not the Elite controller. Sorry, I was just like in the background trying to look at when the Elite controller came out, and said 2014 at the start. Oh no, it was actually 2015. Holy shit! So yeah, people have been waiting for this for a long time, dude. That's like 7 years since the Xbox Elite controller was sort of announced and released. Jesus. I always thought that guy was right. What do you have the name of the guy?
Yeah, Tom Henderson.
Yeah, Tom Henderson. Yeah. It was more the publication that I was like, oh, that's a pretty dodgy publication. But then, like, listening to other journalists talk about it, they're like, oh no, that guy's always on the money. Like, that guy is a good journalist. That publication's pretty unknown. But, that's why you get people like that to come across, I guess. But yeah, he was bang on the money. It's not shocking, not shocking at all, but very welcome. Like, having said all of this, like, DualSense is not my favorite controller. I think it's way too heavy and way too big. It's like, to me, the DualShock 4 is like perfect. Like, I don't know if you've picked up a DualShock 3, PlayStation 3. It's so light, dude. It's crazy. You pick it up, it feels like a toy because it's so freaking light. But the DualShock 4 is just like nice weight to it, nice heft, like not too big. I got smaller hands as well, so like it's good for me. But the DualSense is just like, it's a bit too chunky. Like I can literally feel like it's heavier, and the battery is so shit on it. And I think it's that friggin' DualSense vibration shit, that the tactile vibration, that it's just a bit like, just wears it out so quickly.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's a little it feels just a little chunky on the sides a bit, and the fact that with the stick placement for me, like it took me a long time.
Oh yeah, you're an offset stick, yeah.
I think like the first game I really kind of put that to test with was the first Uncharted game, and I think there's a third-person shooter where you're constantly having to use both sticks. So but look, this is cool. be interested to see what this is priced at. It's not going to be cheap, that's for sure. So
it'll be like $250, right? Like how much is the Elite controller still?
It's in that realm.
It's freaking expensive, but like I guess one way that I do look at it is that given that you can replace the sticks, to me, like I know I'm banging on about that part of it, but if it works the way that we think it does, which is that whole module can be taken out, it pretty much not eliminates stick drift, but if you suffer from it, you have a resolution, you can just replace that module. That to me is going to be worth it, because you could end up buying like a controller and then not, I don't know, like it's sometimes difficult to get the warranties back in Australia, even though it shouldn't be.
Which the Switch had bloody replaceable bloody sticks.
Well, I mean, like that's like, it's a good example, right? If you go send your Switch in Australia to get it repaired, like the drift, you have to pay for it. Like, and I don't think that, I honestly think if they got challenged about that, they wouldn't win that case. Yeah, I just checked. It was $250 Australian for the Elite. It's got to be the same price. I'd be shocked if they charged a lot more. Hopefully it's less, but
I think
that.
We'll in the wrap up later. We'll probably talk about the PlayStation prices, but
the trends are not good.
I could see them getting away with pricing it a little bit higher than what they do with the Xbox. Just
really,
PlayStation. I could. No, I don't think they will. I think they could get away with it because it's PlayStation.
You know how I am a man of value. I can afford it, but it's not about affording things. There's a value component in my head. I gotta say, if I've somehow, because you guys have bought these bloody Elite controllers, I've got it around my head that $250 is okay to spend, which it's not, but it's okay to spend. But I have to say, if it's $300 for a freaking controller, I don't know if I can do it.
I could see Sony's being sneaky and it's like $270 or something.
God,
it's just like just a bit more.
I'm having this visceral reaction because like my heart's saying you're right, and then people are going to straight away go, it's got 2 less buttons at the back. You're getting super ripped off.
It's got 2 more profiles. So
that's true. That's true. That's true. I am looking forward to it. And something that I'm not sure how I'm feeling about. So the non-Batman Batman game, Gotham Knights, got a fancy new trailer at Gamescom, which revealed the game is dropping a little bit earlier. So originally releasing on the 25th of October, it's now coming 4 days earlier, the 21st of October. Very strange. The new trailer showcased classic Batman villains like Harley Quinn and Clayface. I have pre-ordered this game, and I am so mixed on this bloody game. Like, I'm a huge Batman fan, as you know, like huge. I was looking at it last night. I'm like, it's such a weird game. It's like literally Batgirl and 3 Robins. Because all of the other characters are all Robin, and they're just different names, and they've like offshoots of Robin, right? And just I was watching the original trailer again, and then just this one, and I'm like, I've got a pre-order that I can cancel pretty late in the piece. I'm like, honestly, like I'm probably gonna have to wait on the reviews for this one. Like I feel like this one could definitely be a mid-70s type game, and I just don't really have a lot of time for those type of games. And, one thing I have to say is, I know this is...
Mid-70s is pretty high. If you do a Metacritic, that's pretty high.
No, I don't think that's high at all. I think every game gets... High. Nah, man, even shit games get like 70s and stuff like that these days. It's crazy. Sorry. But one thing I will say, I know it's not an Arkham game, but... The one thing I don't necessarily love about the Arkham games, which, by the way, I love them as a whole, is including the one that these guys made, is that the combat, I'm not like a huge fan of the combat in Arkham. Like, I love every other element, like really love every other element. And it's one of the few games that I will like play in stealth as much as possible. But the combat, I'm always a bit like, it feels a bit button mashy. Like, I don't know. I know there's a bit of depth to it, but... And this game's got so much... It feels like everything's emphasizing the combat when I watch. And then the new trailer is like, again, on the combat. And I'm like, I don't know. Something about it. It's just... It really feels like it could go either way, dude.
Yeah, I saw someone comparing this game, the concept of this game, to Wolfenstein Youngblood. So you've got, a new developer handling, even though these guys did work on was it Arkham Origins? I believe
Yeah,
it
yeah, the
was.
latest Arkham game, yeah.
But, they're not Rocksteady. So a new developer taking it, focused on co-op and adding more RPG elements and skill systems. And it's kind of like what happened. Yeah, it happened to Wolfenstein Youngblood. And I actually like Wolfenstein Youngblood. But I can it is weird that kind of there's parallels there in terms of the way that this game's been approached. But it's an interesting one whenever you do jump into the comment sections and reactions of this game. It is very mixed. I think it looks cool. I just it's not a game that I'm like super pumped to play when I haven't even played all the Batman Arkham games. That's always going to be something where it's like, well, I'd probably prefer playing through all the rest of them before I ever tackle this one. But yeah, let's see where it lands. It's.
I think to be fair to us, I would say this is very different from the Arkham games. I think like every part of it, they're trying to explicitly like show that it's not Arkham, it's different. But
to the average punter, they're not seeing it that way.
No, and even yourself, right? And you're not the average punter, so it's like a fascinating one to me. Suicide Squad, on the other hand, Rocksteady's game that's coming out next year or the year after if it gets delayed again. I'm all in on that. Like I'm so like that's a day one guarantee for me. Like I'll be playing that even if it's like not great. I just feel like I'll really enjoy that game. This game, I don't know. And look, honestly, I love Batman to death and I love the sort of rogues gallery, but like Batgirl and like Robin and like the variations of Robin, like Nightwing, etc., Red Hood, they're just like not very interesting to me. I've never really been super into it. It's only like how it relates to Batman and the impact on Batman. So it's like, I don't know. Like I said, I'm going to have to wait for the reviews and then I might cancel my pre-order on this one. It's not coming. It's coming out pretty soon. So it'll be interesting to see how it lands. And, what was I going to say? Oh no, I've forgotten. I was talking about the Robins.
I have no idea what you're going to say.
Oh, I don't know. I just
You're hoping me to like, jog your memory.
You say a good point. You say a good point because I can't think of one. No,
I just look, I want this game to be good for the people that want this game. That's my final thought.
Yeah. Look, I'd say it's a bit of a shame because if this game is a bang, well, not a shame, but it actually does have a good opportunity, this game, because this year we're really going to struggle to say these are the 6 best games. And if this is a surprise hit, because it's got like Batman behind it, it will really elevate really quickly. Like if this is a very, very solid game, like it's probably the best year it could have ever launched in to try to sneak in a game of the year kind of nom, which would be like, crazy for these folks. So, but I'm hoping it works out. I'm hoping it's good. Like we'll check it out. Hopefully it's like a Guardians of the Galaxy where people were a bit dubious about that game and it turned out really well. So, all right, let's get into the other parts of the Gamescom news. So rounding out the news from Opening Night Live, you want to cover Mike's favorite game of all time?
Yeah, so we would have talked a bit more in depth about this, but obviously Mike's on the show, so we're just kind of putting it as part of the wrap up. Dead Island 2. So we actually talked about this a lot last week because the listing leaked early, and Intergot, you were on the money. You're like, oh, well, Gamescom's around the corner. Oh, that's a perfect time to announce this.
Cha-ching.
And announce that they did. It was like the one final thing. It was it's obviously took the wind out of the sails last week, but
yeah, that's such a shame, man.
Yeah, because they had really. Dead Island's trailers are always good. They're always like they kind of go viral and stuff. They're good in the sense that they do the job really well. Like people always talk about them. The fact that even Goat Simulator 3 like memes a Dead Island trailer and stuff. These trailers are infamous, especially the very first Dead Island trailer.
Yeah, I wouldn't say it's infamous, but I definitely think the Dead Island 1 trailer is probably top 10 games trailers.
Yeah.
Not that it's really like relating to the game, right? But just as a piece of art, it's really, really good. So,
but basically, they announced Dead Island 2 re-revealed, I guess, and the fact that the game is coming 3rd of February. I think I don't know if the listing was wrong or if I was wrong in my typo. I said 23rd of Feb last week in our segment, so it's actually 3rd of Feb next year. For all platforms, and there's a lot of information out there about gameplay and stuff from media outlets if you're into that kind of thing. So we're not going to go into depth here, but it's certainly sounds like it sounds like actually like the game's in a good place from what I've read. So and what I've
Yeah,
heard.
there's some impressions already from the media, and they're all saying really, really good things about it. So I want to jump ahead before you loop back to the other two, just to sort of say, like, man, our field is getting infiltrated by the greats of the industry. We'll talk about one a little bit later, but Hideo Kojima is going to be doing a podcast exclusively on Spotify called Brain Structure. So it launches the day before Splatoon 3 comes out, so September 8th. As I said, exclusive to Spotify. It's pretty interesting. They're simultaneously releasing it in English and Japanese, which is pretty cool, which is the same as another content creator that's just joined the field. He's doing the exact same thing. And the first episode will be 30 minutes long. It will feature his best mate, Jeff Keighley, in a regular segment on news updates, which, man, that's going to be really fascinating to see how that's handled. And I'm sure Hideo Kojima is going to pull a lot of really cool and special guests. So, man, podcasts, man, like we should start one. They're becoming a thing.
Yeah, I was on Kojima's Twitter when I was kind of looking at this, and I think his Twitter bio says something like, my body's made up of 70% movies or something. And that's a funny line.
Yeah.
But yeah, look, this is cool. Like it's really, as you mentioned, we're going to be talking about another Japanese developer later doing this, but this is something that, like, the world of Japanese game development, now, Kojima's very different than the average Japanese.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong, but it is, like, it's great to see that it seems like it's becoming more open with people talking about it. Like, we have even Yuji Naka, being open about his disdain for Square Enix about the whole Balan Wonderworld stuff.
Suing them.
Yeah, but openly, like, discussing stuff which it just didn't happen in the past very often with Japanese developers. So this is a great move, and I'm looking forward to checking it out.
Like that whole space, you're right. It's so fascinating, and the way the culture works is so different to Western culture and just working at Japanese games companies. I was watching a documentary about a guy who worked for, I think it was Capcom, and it's like, it really is like a 9-to-5 job, like in terms of the mentality of it all. And it's like, you don't get paid that well, like compared to what you're actually producing and what they're making. It's the whole thing when I was watching it just felt extremely unsustainable, like in the long run. So, and you are seeing more and more of these folks, we're going to talk about one later, kind of like branching out of their core companies and then creating their own company that engages with the publisher, not working for them directly. So
yeah, and I guess a shout out to Harada from the Tekken head honcho, and him doing his Harada's bar segments on YouTube stuff that he's been doing for a while. That's pretty cool. Where he was bringing on other developers to do that. So I wouldn't surprise me if he actually influenced at least Sakurai. We'll be talking about later.
Ooh,
so
I'll be talking about Sakurai. Is that you revealed it? We were just playing that game for so long.
I don't know why we needed to keep that.
I liked it. We kept thinking the ruse up.
Sick of it. A couple of other things that came out, and these are just quick updates. So Return to Monkey Island got a release date of 18th of September, so just around the corner, which is awesome. Launching on Talk Like a Pirate Day, which the fact that they announced this game on April Fool's Day, and then they're like, okay, where are we looking? Oh, Talk Like a Pirate Day's around this time. They're like, money, man, that's perfect.
Well, it's also the pre-orders will get horse armor. You like what is it? The Skyrim joke, I guess.
No, it was Oblivion.
Sorry. Yeah. Even earlier than that, yeah. Tongue firmly planted in cheek with those devs, that's for sure.
Yeah, cool little trailer. And the Lies of P. So Lies of P is the dark gothic Pinocchio-like, Souls-like that really turned heads. I think it was last year when the initial trailers came about. But the trailer that they had at the Gamescom was just super cool. Like, they're showing a lot more of the story. The game is... like, it's basically Bloodborne in this, just done by a different developer in terms of like its feel.
You play as Pinocchio.
Well, I'm assuming you play as Pinocchio, but yeah, it's got they actually talk about the director. I was reading an interview where they're talking about why they chose Pinocchio. It's because they're new to this world, right? And that's something that people can latch on to about it. And it also, the story of Pinocchio goes to really cool locations, and it gave him a chance to, I'm assuming there's going to be a level that's in the belly of a whale or something, right? So it's kind of So it's really, really cool. And the trailer, just like gameplay wise, just looks really, really solid.
It's coming
and
out on Game Pass.
really impressive. Yeah, and that's one of the other things that that was announced, that it's launching on Game Pass. So.
Now, can I just say that Liza P is like relatively a good name, right? Because I think if you said something like Lies of Pinocchio, there's people like me who would just be like, who clueless about the game, who'd be like, I'm not fucking playing Lies of Pinocchio, right? But if people go, oh, this Liza P's game's got a lot of buzz around it, I'm like, oh yeah, I'll check it out.
You know what would be better?
What?
The Liza P.
Very, very, very good. Talking of games that have play on words in terms of their titles. So a flashy new Necrodancer spin-off has been revealed. Rift of the Necrodancer. So Brace Yourself Games teased the new game a few weeks ago that we missed when news about Crypt of the Necrodancer's new Synchrony DLC dropped. Fully revealed with a proper trailer this week. Completely different gameplay from the style of Crypt of the Necrodancer. Gameplay is split across 3 types. Rift mode, which plays very much like a Guitar Hero with a vertical scrolling chart. Mini game mode, which is inspired by Rhythm Heaven minigames, and boss battle mode, which is similar to Punch Out fights. The awesome Danny B is confirmed with doing the soundtrack again. It will have mod support and online leaderboards and will only be available on PC at this stage with no release date. Interested in this, Swinny?
Yeah, this game looks bloody awesome. Like this, I like what I've never played Crypt of Necrodancer, but I've weirdly watched a lot of it because it's a popular game to have it like GDQ and stuff like that. The gameplay style, the mixed gameplay style of this, it definitely appeals to me a lot more because I love the Rhythm Heaven games, Riven Tengoku and all that, and I just love that another company's taking a stab at it. And it's what a company to do it, you know. And it's just the game just looks cool. Like the fact that they're even mixing some Punch Out style boss battles in is just neat. Even though I do suck at Punch Out, so
yeah, like I haven't played as much of Crypt of the Necrodancer, but I have played Cadence of Hyrule, Crypt of the Necrodancer, featuring The Legend of Zelda. Just that, you know, title that comes off your tongue. And I freaking love that game, dude. Like that game's like you should play that game, like, or buy it when it's on sale. It's such a good game. And this is when you're about to tell me that you have it, and I didn't know that. But
I don't own it yet. I'd like to play that game.
I think you really enjoy it, man.
Man, I haven't even beaten Breath of the Wild yet. Like, just let me get to my Zeldas in as I go, you know.
But I like, no doubt you will say this is better than Breath of the Wild, and it's going to trigger me. But I genuinely think you would think this is better. It's a great game, and it's just so awesome to use an IP like Zelda, and they really do it like justice. And there's a reason why an indie was able to get, you know, Breath of the Wild, Legend of Zelda in terms of, you know, as an IP to use. Like, what is it? The first mob to use it since Philips CDI. So they're no high bar to raise.
Yeah, I was about to say that they certainly did a better job than Philips did with the Zelda IP. This game looks awesome. It's a hell of a week to drop it. I hope it doesn't get kind of lost in a bit of the news.
It totally will, because I didn't notice this. I didn't know that this came out. Like, until you flagged it in the run sheet, I didn't know about this game, even though we mentioned it before as well.
Yeah.
They've had very bad timing, I have to admit, because, yeah, like there's been a few lull weeks and they haven't, you know, I don't know, like it just hasn't really penetrated above like hardcore people. So, but it looks amazing. And I think the thing about those guys and girls behind Crypt of the Necrodancer, they just make really high quality games. So that will always, you know, come to the fore eventually. So, and I think this game looks like, you know I'm going to keep saying this shit, but it looks like a good Steam Deck game, right?
It does.
Yeah.
I hope they announce this for consoles and Switch and all that stuff. So,
I definitely will, right? Like they'll probably just try to hone it on PC, get it all set up, and then make all their money on the Switch as they normally do. So, all right. Well, the VR wars are ramping up, and we've got big release updates for both PlayStation VR 2 and the next Meta/Facebook/Oculus headset. So the PlayStation VR 2 release window, which was updated on social media, has been announced that the PSVR 2 is coming out in early 2023. We've been they've been drip feeding information over time, and most recently detailing their fancy new interface features covered in episode 90. So I am very much looking forward to this PSVR 2, albeit, in our, final wrap up of the show, there are little headwinds that make me a bit nervous about how much it's going to be priced.
Yeah, I've said it before, and I'll reiterate that I've been looking to get into the VR game for a while, and the unfortunate thing is just like, we'll talk about Meta in a second.
Yeah.
Like, I don't want anything to do with that company in terms of buying their products and stuff. And as much as they're probably, the value for money, like the Quest 2 and everything. So the PSVR 2 is definitely on my horizon. And as a plug and play gamer, and it's just makes sense for me to just go, okay, just plug this into my PlayStation, and then that's all I have to do to really, and the room setup part of it. But yeah, like early 2023. So when are we thinking? We thinking March, April? What are we?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, like I'm thinking like Feb, March, personally. Like I think that period of time. I think that they were probably pushing for Christmas, like November, and they just weren't able to hit it from a production perspective with all the, issues in China and rah. Like there's so much shit going on. But yeah, man, like the pricing makes me really nervous because like in Australia, definitely the Meta Quest 2, Oculus Quest 2 was so fairly, like it was ridiculously priced, to be fair. It was like $480-ish Australian. Now it's like $630. And now I'm like $630. It's like, I don't think I would buy one. And now I look at the PlayStation VR 2 and I'm like, shit, and then in some news that we'll talk about a little later, I'm like, oh man, this thing could genuinely cost like $700. I don't know if I'm going for it for 700, dude. Like that's a lot of money.
Yeah, and I'm trying to think, how far into the PS4's life cycle did the original PSVR launch? Because was it potentially an equivalent to the time that the PS5 has been around, or was it further along? What I'm getting at is the install base size, because we know that obviously there's a lot of PS5s out there, but there's still a lot of people that can't get their hands on one. Yeah. And I'm just wondering, like the price is obviously a big hurdle, but there's a lot of people out there that probably would buy the PSVR 2, but they can't even get their hands on the actual PS5 itself as well.
Oh yeah, for sure. Like you feel bad for folks that couldn't get it, and then now it's been priced higher, which we'll talk about later. But it was 3 years. I just checked it then, so 3 years after. So this is going to be 2 years. Wait, actually,
just over 2 years. Yeah.
Wait, was it 2019 or 2020 that the consoles came out?
I just think we did it. We did a 1 year like special on
2020. They came out 2020.
Yeah.
So 2 years. So shorter. Yeah, it's a good point. It will be shorter. But the one thing interesting. There'll be more games to play, right? Because I'm assuming all the PSVR games will be compatible with PSVR 2. That would be pretty crazy if they're not.
I really hope so, because
that would be really crazy.
I'd still want to try like Moss and
same.
Astrobot VR and there's a bunch of cool games. So
and shit, you know what? To be honest, I never thought about that. Like, I don't know if I've ever seen them confirm that the new one will be compatible with all the old games. That would be really dopey if it's not. Like, I don't know what the reason would be if they couldn't. Shit, you made me worry now. And then the other sort of VR news that's coming out, our favorite company, Facebook, are releasing MetaQuest Pro, which is under the project name Cambria. And Mark Zuckerberg, the Meta CEO, let it slip by accident, pretty much, on the Joe Rogan podcast when he was talking about VR and all these kind of things, and basically say, hey, this new, more advanced headset's coming out in October. And so everyone's like, oh, okay, well, I mean, he's not going to get that wrong. So yeah, it's pretty incredible. So it's interesting and a lot more expensive than the current one.
Yeah, they've got a Meta, I guess it's called Meta Connect. They've got an event in October, and he specifically said that they're talking about it there. So we will have a specific. It's not that they're going to drop it out of nowhere next month. So it's, again, like, to reiterate what I said during the previous note is, I'm not going to buy anything from them, but I'm super interested to know how this stuff goes, because it will shape not only, we're a gaming podcast, but what Meta is doing could potentially shape the actual like working world and the business world and stuff. And like that impacts anyone that's, that does a job we sit in front of a computer, So
I am absolutely not a buyer in that stuff, that we're all going to be like, I struggle to get my team to come on video sometimes with stuff, right? The idea of people strapping in a headset on their head, and who's paying for that headset, by the way, right?
Yeah.
And like I can't even get a good laptop, right? Like at work, right? Like they want to get the most bare bones laptop to me. I just don't see it. Like I think there's nothing there. Meta to me has wasted like $1 billion, like $10 billion. That's how much they spent, dude. Spent $10 billion on VR efforts and metaverse efforts last year in one single year. $10 billion. It's like where are they pissing that money up the wall? Like, give me some of it. But yeah, like I'm not a buyer in it. But with everything said, I have to give credit to Zuckerberg and like I guess appreciation that they have totally lifted the bar in VR stuff. And I'm not saying like purely from a technology perspective, but the fact that just general people I talk to have like a Oculus Quest 2 or a Meta Quest 2, and I think like from a pricing perspective, it made it more realistic. So like I'm sure even with the price increase, PlayStation is kind of like, shit, we've got to price this in this realm, or else it just like how are we going to get it off the ground?
Yeah, and so the test for me is always like speak to colleagues at work who aren't into gaming and stuff, and ask them, okay, well, what do you know about VR? They're not going to know what the HTC Vive is or the Valve Index is, but they're probably going to know what that Meta does VR headsets. Whether or not they know the exact names. They go, oh yeah, Facebook, Meta, they do VR headsets. If I'm going to look for one, maybe I'll just check them out. So they definitely have moved the needle in that regards. It's still far from a mainstream thing, of course. But yeah, be interesting what this ends up being and how much it costs. So
yeah, and it's gonna have like facial recognition, like gesture recognition, and like there's a whole rabbit hole we won't get into around some of the posts from Zuckerberg around the new Meta Connect versus Horizon, and like how shitty the little selfie that he shared looked. Like absolutely trash, like so bad. It's like almost so bad that it's like an elaborate joke, right? That in October when they reveal it, everyone's going to be like, holy shit, look how amazing this is. That was just a big joke that he posted before. But we both know he's not like that. So it's like, there's no way he's doing it like that. It's like, that is what they have so far, which is just, it looks like from the Wii. It's so insane how bad it looks. So
all I just want to know is how good are the bottles of Sweet Baby Ray's barbecue sauce going to look in Facebook Horizons or Meta Horizons or whatever.
I gotta say, like, I want to check out what the time is that they're streaming the Oculus, the Meta event, because last year's one was so funny. Like, if it's a reasonable time, dude, I'd be up to stream it because it was so funny. I literally watched the entire thing because it was so fucking goddamn funny. And there was actually gaming news. That was where Resident Evil 7 VR was announced.
It could be a really good cringe reaction.
It's cringe reaction. Cringe reaction, exactly. So, yeah, when they announced the date for that Horizon, whatever it's going to be called, that's going to be interesting. That's going to be interesting. Maybe you should cover the next one because I got a lot to say on the following story.
Yeah, so we had very surprise out of nowhere, and like I guess launch of a YouTube channel from the Kirby and Smash Bros. Creator Masahiro Sakurai, and spoiler alert, it's amazing so far. So the channel is called Masahiro Sakurai on Creating Games. And within 4 days or so, it's already amassed over 300,000 subscribers, which is not surprising. He's a very well-known name, especially in the Smash Bros. Community, of course. And if anyone doesn't know, Sakurai was a director of the original Kirby games, as well as headed up every single Smash Bros. Game to date. But he doesn't technically work for Nintendo. I don't think he's ever technically worked for Nintendo. Well, I was looking. I could be wrong, but basically, he started or HAL Laboratory, and he worked at Q Entertainment for a while, and he worked on Meteos and things like that, and now runs his own company, Sora Limited. So I couldn't see. I could be wrong.
Yeah, you might be right.
If he was ever officially like an employee of Nintendo, but obviously he's always closely linked to Nintendo for the games that he makes.
And can I quickly add, I know you're going to touch on it a little bit, but he has 2 channels. They're both like the same content, but one's in English and one's in Japanese, but they're completely separate channels that produce send the videos out. So he's got 345,000 on one and 289,000 on the other. So he's got 634,000 subscribers in like 4 days.
Oh, I actually didn't know that.
It's insane. It's so
but
cool.
The channel's videos, you can see some of it if you're watching on YouTube at the moment. But they're so far focused on different elements of game design. So the 2 that I've watched so far, that he's put out a bunch of videos pretty quickly. He was prepared a whole lot of stuff. So one on the game design elements like hit stop and frame rates, and he's also said he's going to be chronologically talking about each of the games that he worked on, starting with the very first Kirby's Dream Land. So it's just, and these are short videos, maybe like 4 or 5 minutes, and the way they're presented, like Sakurai's always had a real good knack for explaining technical things in a very entertaining and easy way throughout the Smash Bros. Presentations he'd done. But that's very much focused just on the Smash Bros. Series, whereas now we're getting to hear him talk about all this cool stuff. And I love hearing about, the way that games are made and why they're made that way. And the first video on Kirby is just so cool.
Yeah, and like honestly, like straight away in the first actual video, because he's releasing these little bite-sized videos that are like about 5 minutes max each. And just like, stop for the big moments or do this or that. And it's like stuff that intuitively, but it's interesting to hear a really genius creator how deliberate they are with thinking about these things and why, and almost the naming of all the mechanisms that they do. It's super wholesome shit, man, like what he's doing. And like I don't think we've called it out so far, but he's explicitly said he's not monetizing the channel at all. He's like not turning on ads. He's not ever going to put any sponsors in the videos or anything like that. And he's actually just out of his pocket to pay for the editors and all that stuff. Like it's super wholesome, man.
You say that and give it 3 months and he'll be advertising his OnlyFans. So.
No, I just don't want to say my next game is a blockchain game. It's just like,
oh no!
It's like,
don't even say that.
Can he go villain mode like Cyberpunk 2077 or something like that? But the other thing is, he did say his next game is like TBD or something like that, which I was like, oh, that's like a nice little throw there. Yeah,
I think I never got a chance to play Kid Icarus Uprising. I think he could have another shot if he wanted to go back to that franchise. Because I don't think he'll be working on Kirby. Obviously, Kirby in the Forgotten Land was a smash success, and that series is now, it's no longer, he's no longer involved with that, from my knowledge. But yeah, obviously it could be something. Maybe he just wants to do something brand new, kind of like what he did with Q Entertainment with Meteos. Because if you remember Meteos, that was just like out of nowhere, kind of just such a cool little concept on the DS. So
yeah, it'd be cool if he also works with someone else. Like I'd love if he did a collab with someone in the industry that you just wouldn't expect. I feel like he's the kind of guy that would collaborate really, really well and would like really enjoy that content. I would love if he like steps away from the Smash franchise and does a few different things, re-energizes, so then he feels like, oh yeah, I'll do another Smash game. Because it would be like a sad day when he finally retires from that franchise. Because, the joke is like every single game, it's like his last. Like,
How about this? Listen to this.
Yeah.
Sakurai announces he's working with Sony. PlayStation All-Stars 2, baby. He's bringing that to life. Imagine
he's so Japanese, he would never do that.
Not that would ever happen, but imagine if that happened. That would be, you just want stuff to happen just to see people's reactions.
That would honestly be so unbelievable. It would it might be the most unbelievable news story we've covered in the last 2 years, just because of the the people involved, and like there's no bad blood with him and Nintendo. He even said that he's running all the videos through Nintendo, like just to make sure they're comfortable with it. The other thing that I thought was really interesting, like I'd fully recommend people subscribe to this if they like gaming, is that he was actually saying, I'm using footage from games and I haven't always asked for permission. And like, if people, you know, don't want me to use it, then we'll figure out what I do. But he's like, it's just so much better to use the actual footage. And then I think about like Nintendo's stance in the last 10 years, which it's in their right. It's in their legal right to say, don't use the footage. It's not, it's their content, right? But it's so funny just to hear a guy who's relatively like important in the world of Nintendo. I'm not saying he works for them, but you know, from a sphere of influence, he's more important than most senior people there. That he's just like, fuck it, like, you know, I want to put videos because it makes more sense. That's what I'm gonna do. Yeah, pretty much. Yeah. So we're following the Sakurai rule. You know what would be hilarious if he takes down
the Sakurai rule.
It'd be funny because he'll get a flag on his channel saying someone's used your content, right? It would be funny if he actually tried to take our thing down.
Oh, God.
Which he wouldn't. It's too wholesome. He doesn't care. So, no, check their channel out. It's really cool. It's going to be... I'm super interested to see some of the behind-the-scenes Smash stuff, because he's already said he's going to cover some of the things in Smash, like in the development and why they went one way or the other. So it's... You know, I would love if he leans into like, you know, like really diabolical topics that, you know, people have been asking around for a long time.
He needs to do a video on the trip mechanic in Smash Brawl. He needs to he needs to cover why he implemented that horrible thing.
Or just like, I just want to hear him talk about Melee, or, you know, just his reflection on the current community, because he rarely says anything about that stuff because Nintendo don't want to promote it, right? So... yeah, stuff like that is super fascinating. Super fascinating. So I definitely check out Masahiro Sakurai on creating games. It's not quite so catchy, but and he doesn't have a short URL for us to send it to either. I don't think it will ever change. But
just type in Sakurai YouTube and you'll find it.
Yeah. He's stolen the name of our shows. Imagine that. Imagine if he released something who's Bigwig in gaming on it. It's like, damn you, Sakurai. All right, let's jump into the final news story. And Swinny, you know, sit back, just relax, take a load off. There's more Analogue update news. So another week, another set of Analogue updates. So the Analogue Pocket itself was updated this week. So the Analogue OS v1.1 Beta 2, along with the Open FPGA version 1.1. Some of the cool changes... that they've actually clarified the whole license situation, which was sort of, you know, rumbling in the community around how, you know, these licenses can match up with some of the stuff that's already happened with Mista. So it's very important that has been clarified. Ability to change cores in the menu, you know, view longer file names, like some of these like quality of life stuff. Really cool news that they've actually flagged that the original display modes, so they're the really cool, you know, vintage, you know, display mode, so it makes it look like an old school Game Boy or an actual Game Boy Advance, that they're coming to the Open FPGA cores soon. So that's really, really cool. I'm looking forward to that. Currently, obviously, given that there's lots of updates, this update has actually broken the Neo Geo core, but that's getting updated in itself as well to make sure it works again. And then the last one is, I think it's a really good sign so far that with Analogue, that they're able to like release more consistently. More consistently.
Cough break.
Yeah, cough break.
So I'm on mute coughing so much at the moment. So,
so am I.
You don't have that luxury.
It's really good to see that they're constantly, you know, updating and engaging with the community a lot more, and they're hitting the schedule that they've put out there. And the big thing for me that I'm looking forward to is, supposedly next month, they're going to update the Pocket again and add DAC support. So that will mean I'll be able to plug in the Analogue Pocket dock to my Analogue DAC. So, you know, just getting all the way to the end of it, it means that I can plug in the Analogue Pocket and output to my CRT, like the, you know, Sony Trinitron that I have. So I'm really looking forward to playing some of like the old school Game Boy games, Game Boy Advance games on the Trinitron, because I've never actually seen them on there.
Playing Game Boy games on modern TVs is an experience. Like I was playing, was it I think it was in the Contra collection. I think I was playing one of the Game Boy games there, and it's pretty rough. So I think the idea of using a CRT if you've still got one for this, I think that's a really good idea actually.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to seeing what it's like because they're not designed for CRTs. Like this is something that I think people get confused because the original consoles, like the SNES, Mega Drive, stuff like that, they were made to take advantage of CRT effects, scan lines, all that kind of stuff, and blending. But Game Boy was not. It was always built for LCD. Like that's what they were always expecting. And you even see it with Game Boy Advance that they went really crazy with the palette because the Game Boy Advance when it launched was so dim. So they had to really like boost up the contrast and saturation and stuff to make it seen. So when you see it on like an Analogue Pocket screen, it's like, holy shit, like it's too vibrant. You can kind of tell like they've gone a bit crazy with the colors. So yeah, really cool updates to the Analogue OS, the core, functionality of the system. We had new cores announced this week. So from Null Object, Tecmo arcade core starting with Rygar, and it's already playable. I've played it on my Pocket. It all works. It's really cool. Big news around Jatago. So he's probably the most famous, I'd say, Mr. Core developer. So he's a guy who did the whole CPS2 core. So that's like, Street Fighter Alpha, X-Men vs. Street Fighter, all those kind of really cool games. Starting with the the Renegade arcade core. So it's going out to patrons on Friday, the 2nd of September. He did make some comments in the community. It was kind of interesting. Like saying, it's powerful, but it's not quite as powerful as a Mister. So it's going to be really interesting to see what the limit is, like what games get on there and what don't.
Yeah, so look, a quick question for someone that is very ignorant of any of this. I know arcade boards are very different than, let's say, video game consoles and everything like that, but is this typically the way? Do they roll these things out as individual games? Like, or is Rygar, for instance, not using a board that other Tecmo games would use?
What some of these things are is they implement a bunch of the arcade board, right? And some arcade boards are multi-system, so you can have like different games. So like CPS2 is a good example.
Yeah,
it's like a system. But the thing is, even implementing that, some of the ROMs don't take full advantage of every feature on the board. So they implement a subset of the board such that like a game like Rygar can work, but other games can't quite yet because they haven't fully nailed the entire board.
Is it much set up to, like, if they do roll some of this stuff out as individual games for the arcade, like, is it finicky to do it on an individual basis, or is it a pretty simple process?
No. So when they were initially doing all of this stuff, so for Mister mostly, it's super finicky, like the most insanely finicky thing you ever see. It's like they are literally getting the physical arcade boards and then like taking the individual components apart and like decapping them and like analyzing the circuitry and stuff. It's like insane shit.
Because, like, I think you really have to want to play the game to do that. You know what I mean? It's not. I know some of this is let's do it because we can, as opposed to let's do it because everyone wants it. But at the same time, like I don't mind Rygar, what I've played of it, but I'm not going to go out of my way to do it. So if the Analogue Pocket is a bit simpler, then that would be good, but yeah.
No, so like the way it's working with this space really is people so far from what I've seen, they're not really looking to make new cores so much as they are looking at just porting existing cores that exist. So with the Neo Geo one, that's a good example. That was taken from like an existing core, and the person that ported it never did the code for the original one. It was just like, how do I translate this so this works for Analogue Pocket? And it's like, if it took 100 units of effort to create the core in the first place, it probably has taken 1 to 10 units of energy to port it, depending on how hard it is to port, right? So the difficulty with like Neo Geo to get everything working is it doesn't have enough RAM for some cases. So it depends on the system. I think, what you'll see though is once they do things like the SNES and the NES, once you get those things working, then you've got like thousands of games on those systems, right? But with the arcade one, you're 100% right. It's like with MAME, so this is going back into emulator world, with MAME, you've got like, literally thousands of arcade boards you can play. With Mister, it's not thousands. It's like, dozens, or, like I think it's around the dozens mark. So a game like Pac-Man, Galaga, they're all done. But there's like lots of games that haven't been converted into Mister World yet. Like you can't play Street Fighter 3 on Mister. But the best way to play Super Street Fighter 2 Turbo is on the Mister, I would argue. So it's very mixed bag. But once they get like NES and SNES stuff, it's going to be massive. So, and I'm sure that's coming, but it's really positive that Jatago's jumping on it. I'm sure there are people working on the SNES. NES is like super obvious because it's just like a system that, definitely the mysterious developer who released all these other cores that I'll talk about in a second, I'm sure he could translate it quite quickly, but I don't think he will. Like, I don't think he'll be the one doing it. So I'm guessing someone's going to try to port one of the existing Mister cores over to the Analogue Pocket. And just speaking of which, some of the core updates to round some of this out. So that very mysterious, specialized 1997 developer who we don't know anything about has updated their Game Boy, Game Boy Color, SG-1000, Master System, and Game Gear, and I should say Game Boy Advance as well, cores. And it's really awesome and crazy updates for me, at least. So the way it used to work is like you'd go into the core of the game and then you're playing it and you have to quit out of everything. Now there's like an in-game menu. So you can actually, like if you're playing the Game Boy core, for instance, you could switch between like Donkey Kong to Tetris, like in-game. It actually shows you the controls now. You can't map the controls, but it's obvious like that's the first step to then remapping the controls. And for each of the cores, there's specific settings that like is available, and some really, really cool. Like stuff like you can have a rumble strength. So there's actually a rumble pack that you can get on some of the games, and it actually works with these cores if you have a rumble pack, like a DS rumble pack. I mean, who's crazy enough to get something like that? So, and then the other big thing for me is that they've separated Game Boy and Game Boy Color cores. So now, like when you boot the Game Boy, it's like literally like an original Game Boy. Like the Nintendo logo comes down and it's like ding. It's, I don't know. There's something very like nostalgic and iconic about it. And then a few other like updates. The Space War PDP 1 core was updated, and then the Pong core was updated. And that's just like that person like coming up with AGG23, coming up with some really cool stuff. And then finally, just on Rumble packs, I was one of those crazy people that was like, oh, I need to get like a Rumble pack for the Analogue Pocket. Unfortunately, I don't have the Pocket on my desk. But I actually bought this this Rumble pack that's like a repo Rumble pack for from an Aussie actually in Queensland, from this Inside Gadgets thing. And I ordered it. Came like, I don't know, like less than a week later. And it's insane, dude. It's like, I have this like little cartridge that's like a Game Boy Advance cartridge, and like for games like Pokemon Pinball, it will actually like rumble. And I'm like, this is like the coolest thing, because like I didn't have any games that rumbled on Game Boy, and I never had a Game Boy Color, and on the Game Boy Advance I never had anything that rumbled. I never actually had anything that rumbled until the Switch. So it's just like, it's kind of cool. And it'd be kind of actually insane if people started to hack old ROMs to actually add in rumble. Like that would be such a wild thing to do. So yeah, no, very cool. Like massive updates with analog stuff. It's as long as people keep updating, I'm gonna start updating as well.
So all these updates, and one last question from me.
Yeah.
Can it support the Game Gear TV tuner yet?
Wait, what do you mean yet? I think it did actually support it. I think
but don't you need to plug that thing into it though? Like I'm looking at it, I'm like, man, that TV tuner, Matt, remember that? Did you have that?
I think I had it, man. Like I've got, honestly, this is like a good example of like false memory. I'm pretty sure I had it. But
I just love the look of it so much. Like the fact that there's an antenna sticking out of your Game Gear is just, I love it. I never got to try it. Like I was always curious because as a Nintendo kind of fan, back when I was a kid, I was like, man, you can watch TV on the Game Gear. It's just such a cool idea.
I probably have a false memory that I have it. You know the whole thing, and you've touched a sore spot with me with the Game Gear, that I just kind of hate that thing because of like the fact that I wanted a SNES, honestly, more than I ever wanted anything in my life. Like that's like number one. Number two, Super Mario Brothers 3, and number three, surprisingly maybe to you, is like Ocarina of Time. Like they're the top three things for me that I wanted. Like I just wanted them so bad, right? And then yeah, getting that goddamn Game Boy, I was like so pissed about it.
Game Gear.
I don't know, man. I feel like I did have one of these things because I'm like looking at it.
It wasn't meant to be, hey, let's extend and derail. It was like, hey, I just want to bring up the Game Gear TV tuner.
It was a crazy thing. It was a crazy thing.
That's the whole reason.
I got some crazy memory that I had one, but it's probably wrong. I don't know. We wouldn't have been able to afford one, but it doesn't work. So I actually just double checked. So I've actually got a Game Boy camera. The Game Boy camera works with the Analogue Pocket, which is really, really cool. It's crazy, man.
I wonder if there's people out there making like the printer rolls for the Game Boy camera on eBay and stuff.
For the Game Boy printer.
Yeah.
There's
got to be somewhere out there making some. You talked about repro.
I hope so. That'd be good.
Printer
That'd be good.
Stuff.
But yeah, I've just checked. The TV tuner for the Game Gear doesn't work because the technology is quite interesting. It actually uses the LCD technology and specifically that screen to display the image. It's just not a video feed. It's like the way that they process the video.
Come on, spiritualize 1997. Pull your boots up. You got to get the TV tuner working. Poor form.
But also, by the way, there are like no analog TV signals anymore. So you literally can't pick up anything, even in Australia. And
that doesn't matter. I'll look at static all day long.
Static. Yeah, so like shout out to all the devs and everyone working on the Analogue Pocket stuff. I think it's really cool, really amazing, really cool community. Hopefully people can like chill out about the whole Mister versus Analog stuff. I think both can exist in harmony. I'll definitely be picking up a Mister when I finally one day find a candy cab worthy of buying, because I definitely will get a Mr. Cade then. But yeah, like a very cool update. And I'm like, I don't know. I like being on the journey. But then I think about your situation where one day you'll get this thing, and I almost guarantee it'll be like SNES, NES, Genesis, like everything will be available then. And you're gonna be like, okay, what do I want to play? And
I'll be like, I'll just play Dr. Mario on my cart that I already own. That's all I'll do.
Probably, yeah, probably. All right, let's wrap up the news. So, time to wrap up all the gaming news. I feel like this is a bit of a clunky session.
It's fine. It's worked well in the last couple of weeks.
But we have in the background a whole bunch of items, and then we just kind of we need to brand this segment, Swinny. We need a bumper for this. We need to amp this one up.
I've called it the big wrap up. You can name it something else.
It needs to be the big smorgasbord or something like that. You know, we go in, we check, smorgasbord. Come on, the smorgasbord's better.
A bit of
or the big sizzler.
The big sizzler.
The big sizzler. Can we do that?
Yeah, okay, all right. The big sizzler.
Yeah.
Which
doesn't make sense for anyone.
Yeah. If anyone doesn't know, Sizzler was an all-you-can-eat buffet restaurant that doesn't exist, or at least to my knowledge, doesn't exist anymore in Australia.
There was one in like Queensland, I think. Yeah, but it might be closing down soon.
So in the US, you had the last Blockbuster, and now we've got the last Sizzler. Okay. But yeah, look, what we used to, a bit of behind the scenes, what we used to do for 1 Minute Swin and Minute Mike anyway was, okay, here's all the potential stories, and not all of them get covered anyway. But with the 1 min for the Swin, it's like the headlines are set so fast that you know it's like you wouldn't be able to get much out of it. So we'll just pick out any that we want to talk about, and I guess we need to give probably a bit more context than we might do just based on the headline. But what do you want to talk about first, Stuart?
Yeah, it's a bit like this is what I always have trouble with, because it's like I'm reading the headlines while you guys are talking.
You get it well in advance.
I know. I think I wrote some of these ones as well. Okay, the biggest one that's probably almost a segment, maybe we should have done it as a segment, is the PS5 increase. So I did call out the other week with the Oculus increase, and genuinely I think they were losing money when they launched the Oculus Quest 2. And then with the chip shortage, pandemic, everything, I'd imagine they were starting to lose like significant amount of money that they just couldn't tolerate. So they increased the price a lot of the Quest 2. And I was, and I did call it out then. I'm like, how many times has like an item that's released actually gone up in price post-release? Like, it just kind of never happens in consumer tech, right? And look, fuck, like I feel like I put a bad omen on us that the
Yes,
PS5,
it's all your fault. It's all your fault.
that the PS5 outside of America, Japan, did they get a price increase? Can you check that? So in Australia, it definitely did. In US, it didn't, right? Which is, is very political, obviously. But in Australia, it was a $50 increase to the PS5, very significant. So you've taken the device from like $750 into genuinely, it's like an $800 thing now.
So the ones that are listed on VGC, Europe, it just has Europe.
Yeah.
UK, Japan.
Oh, so Japan as well.
China, Australia, Mexico, and Canada will all see a price increase.
It should just say increasing everywhere except the US, because that's what it kind of sounds like. Yeah. And now we've also heard both from Nintendo and Microsoft explicitly that they will not increase the price of the Series X/S and the Nintendo Switch. I think Nintendo Switch is a bit of a moot point. It's like they're so well developed on that machine, like they wouldn't be losing any money at all, right? So they probably could have a price cut on that machine. So,
and I will just say as well that like both the standard PS5 and the digital versions are getting this increase
exact same
well.
$50 increase, exactly.
Yeah, $50 for both. Yeah.
Which then drives the differential in a weird way, because it makes you then just go, why are you buying a digital version? Like, I personally don't get it. Like, there's at least a couple of games you could buy physically that are just so goddamn cheaper than digital. And take my example with Ratchet and Clank. Like, I played it, I didn't really love it, I returned it. Like, that saved me like $125. Like, that's the difference in the price right there.
Yeah, especially with how much these games cost now.
Oh, they're ridiculous digitally. So
yeah, the PS5 digital for $650 is kind of wild. This is RRP, like this is listed officially in Australia.
No, but they're all selling for that, right? They're even doing worse because they're bundling it. When they go to sell them, they put a bloody controller in Horizon Forbidden West, and then you're paying like $1,000 for a freaking console. It's crazy because it's in some crazy bundle. So,
but I mean, from a business standpoint, look, this decision's obviously not one they would make lightly at all. But at the same time, PS5s are still so in demand that people will pay the extra amount. Like, it's what I really hate about this is, you know, PS5 has been out for close to 2 years now, or getting there. There are people obviously that still haven't been able to get their hands on it.
Yeah.
Whether or not it's just because they're just like me, it's like I don't want to have it's not something that I'm gonna like go out of my way and plan my life around. I just want to go and buy one.
Yeah.
But it really sucks.
I had to help you.
You did help me get mine, and for anyone that hasn't been able to get it, they're gonna have to wear this cost now, which kind of sucks.
Yeah, it really sucks, especially if you wanted to get it and it just like you don't. Like with me, I've got the ability to write code to be able to like monitor shit. So like I bought one for myself. When my sister needed to get one, like
you bought 10 to sculpt them.
No, to be clear, like I did not do that. I could do it, but I did not do it. So I did it. I let you know, and then my sister as well. I made sure she got one. But like that's a crazy advantage, right? Like someone who's just working full time doesn't want to muck around with that shit. Honestly, you could be in a situation where you still haven't got one because of it. Like, because some of these things they list during the workday. Like some people, if you're on a bloody building site, it's like, what? Oh, sorry guys, I got to drop my tools to fucking buy a PlayStation 5. Like, that's why there's a big scalping market, right? Because people like that are like, fuck it, I'll just pay extra. So one thing I will say is Sony could literally put another $200 on these things. And I don't think you'll have a situation where they're in stores. I think people will still buy them at the moment. Like, even if it was $200 extra. So, yeah.
Well, one thing that I just wanted to mention, so we didn't have our games, what have we been playing this week, but the game that I did play this week...
Well, this is controversial, but yeah, go on.
Let me finish. I put about 25 hours in and completed Nobody Saves the World, and about half an hour after I completed the game, I went and sat down and looked at some of the news websites, and then announced new DLC for it. So that's cool. It is paid DLC for Nobody Saves the World called Frozen Hearth or Hearth, yeah. And it includes new unlockable forms of things. I think it's going to be like $5 US, so maybe like $8 Australian or something.
Is this new scam with Game Pass where all the DLC is not free, and people are like getting into? It's almost like a new mobile platform, Game Pass.
That's always been the case with Game Pass. That a lot of the companies, it makes business sense that where they will make money off the DLC that they release, but. This, I mean, free updates weren't the norm in the past, like free content updates, you know, like we've been very fortunate that a lot of developers have been doing this stuff to keep their communities alive and things like that. But yeah, look, I'm interested in trying that out because it was a really fun game. So,
quick one, but I think it's shameful that Dark Souls 3 was finally, after like hundreds of days, the PC servers are back online, so you can actually play matchmaking. It was so bad that people could like totally hack your machine, so they just ripped it out of the game and put it in the too hard basket, released Elden Ring. This was all before Elden Ring. And then, so what's this? This is like January when all this stuff happened. It's unbelievable how many months it's taken to come back online. And it's sort of like one of the things that FromSoft, I couldn't imagine ever buying those games on PC initially. I think eventually, like when they go on sale and everything, like on a Steam Deck, that would be really cool. But I just, like, look at even Elden Ring, man. Like, it had so many issues for people on PC.
The thing is, when Dark Souls 3 came out, for instance, that game didn't run at 60 on consoles, whereas it did on PC. So
okay, interesting.
That was the reason why a lot of the content creators in the Souls community that I watch were doing that on PC for that, and also they could use like free camera modding tools and things like that. So, but yeah, I agree. Like they have a very spotty record on PC. I'm not sure about the Sekiro PC port, but yeah.
You just can't trust it, especially if you're going in day one, you don't know anything else about it. And like, honestly, reviewers are just too piss weak to call out a game not working well. You know, like look at Cyberpunk 2077. So, the other one is, have we got a date booked in for Game Awards? We now know that it's going to be on, for their time, Thursday, December 8th, but it's going to be Friday, December 9th for us. What are we doing? Are we live streaming it? What do we think?
Even if we don't live stream, I'll be watching it.
Live?
So, yeah.
So you can take that day off? Okay. Well, yeah, let's do it then.
Hell yeah.
All right,
Who needs to take the day off? I'll just like slack away. Nah. Because the Game Awards is, you know, like the fair criticism that they're like just marketing stunts or whatever. That's what I'm there for. I'm there for the reveals. I'm there for the news, and I'm there to get excited about games, because E3 obviously hasn't been a thing these last couple of years, and the Game Awards has almost become the de facto E3 hype period.
Yeah, for sure.
And we've had some really great reveals.
Yes, really good
recent years. So
like even when we watch it, and I'm like, I wasn't like, it didn't live up to the hype. Then I look at it afterwards, and I'm like, that's pretty decent actually. Like, you know, some of the announcements, it's like, okay. Like, I remember watching that and, you know, going, okay, that's cool. So I reckon and we're talking about the show on the show, but I think it would be fun to actually go harder on some of the stuff. Like, let's just fucking do every single award. Like, come up with our, like, you know, bingo card on every single award. Because last time we were like, let's pick the categories we like. But then, you know, the categories will come up on the live stream. It's like, it would have been funny if we actually voted for everything. So let's vote for everything.
Yep.
But let's also make some like, not kind of like, I don't drink, but like drinking game idea stuff. You know what I mean? Like, let's have a line around what we think, how many world premieres, or, you know, like all this other extra shit. Like, I think it would be really funny if we do some of those things, and I'll try to make it work graphically. So
you've given me shit about this, but when I was watching the Gamescom opening night live, the misuse of that, like that term,
world
no longer holds zero weight now. Like it's
a meme now.
the Gotham Knights trailer, which, look, I know they showed some new stuff, but that was a world premiere. I'm like, Gotham Knights comes out like in
a few months. Yeah.
How many trailers has Gotham Knights had? How many in-depth gameplay? Yeah, I don't trust you anymore, Keighley.
Yeah.
That world premiere, I don't trust you anymore.
That has to be one of the betting lines. Like, how many times are they going to use the term world premiere? Or like that come up on the screen like a bumper to designate it. But yeah, even looking back at it now, man, there's like a lot of cool stuff that was announced, like Tunic and, you know, heaps of stuff around Suicide Squad, Star Wars Eclipse, Wonder Woman, which I've totally forgotten about, but that's coming out. Like,
who the hell's making that again?
Monolith.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
So Alan Wake. Wake, 2.
Remember, do you remember there's an Indiana Jones game made by
Bethesda.
Machine Games and Todd Howard?
Well, Todd Howard, I think, is pretty involved in that. So yeah.
Oh man!
And people are talking about that still going to come out on PlayStation. I'm like, I just don't see it, man. So yeah, all right, cool, man. Well, we'll do it. Like, see if Mike is willing to be a good player.
We'd have to drag him along.
Fuck him. Let's replace him. Let's get Joe Giles on.
If he doesn't react to the Game Awards, then his predictions of the Game Awards have to be randomized, I think.
But then that's scary because he could win with the randomized.
No, but that would be funny if he won with randomized. That would be funny.
And we'll have to agree on the rules because you two whinged that I won last year because of... I just remembered that as well with the Game Awards because It Takes Two, which I was adamant was going to win. Didn't I not? All the way leading up. I'm like, it's going to win. I'm telling you guys, it's going to fucking win.
And have you played it yet?
No, because you guys are assholes. I was thinking about this today. I'm like, these guys, I do almost 100 episodes about gaming, and these motherfuckers will not play It Takes Two with me. That's sad. That's an indictment on you guys, not me.
Well, I might not be playing It Takes Two, but next week I'll be playing a game, and it relates to the last thing I'll point out from this is JoJo's Bizarre Adventure All-Star Battle R comes out next week, and they revealed the last 3 characters, 2 that were rumored because of leaks, but we have Trish, Prosciutto, and Pesci, who are dual character, and Giacho. And they also confirmed that Poochie, who's the big bad of part 6, will only have his White Snake move set, so they're actually changing his character, but they're actually pretty cool. So basically, just imagine it like Pokemon trainer in Smash. They're taking one of the like Bulbasaur or whatever, right?
Yeah.
Like they kind of did. They're splitting it out to be its own character, and then they're going to add in the original one back in a free update later. So basically,
it's kind of what they did with Charizard.
Yeah,
but then you're saying then kind of go back to being Pokemon trainer. Okay,
and the reason is I think that the original version of that character was quite hard to pull off. You need to do crazy stuff like chant 12, 13 words or something like that. You need to do some stuff where it's just too difficult to use. So, but there's obviously people that probably like that, so they're going to add that character back in as it was as a separate version later. So that game comes out next week, and I'm looking forward to giving it a shot.
That's a CPS3 game, right? Like same software.
No.
No, it's a different game. Okay.
This is the 3D remaster version of you're talking Heritage of the Future, which was the CPS3 game.
Oh, okay. I'm not familiar. Anything JoJo? I just don't know anything about it. I haven't. With the content. So.
I've talked about it enough on the show. It's basically the remaster of the PS3 3D 2.5D fighter.
Yes. Yeah. The only other thing that I was shouting out was that Denuvo is coming to Switch. Now Denuvo should send a shudder through every PC gamer. Not if you're a totally legit gamer, buy every game you have. Like Denuvo has caused many games to run very poorly, and especially fuck over people with lower end machines, just unnecessarily checking things and doing all this other kind of stuff. And they're actually introducing it to the Switch shortly. And there's actually a call out that they said, like, one thing they were pointing to was Metroid Dread, which they were able to detect had a lot of people play that game through emulators because it got cracked within one day, because you actually have to crack the Switch games to be able to play them. I've never done it before, but yeah, there's a bit of a process involved. And what they're trying to do with this is it's not really for folks that like have got the physical game. It's actually affecting the emulator to actually play the software. They're doing something to interrupt that, and they're going to like release it with every new game that like at least Nintendo produces. So pretty interesting stuff. It's going to be fascinating to see how it all eventuates. I think ultimately the whole point is, and you see this in the movie field as well, if they can buy like a couple of weeks where no one can pirate it, that's enough for them. You know what I mean? Like, because you kind of got that wave of people that want to play something and that will be like, I'm just going to buy it legit, because I can't get it anywhere else. So I think that's all they're trying to capture in the market. But man, it's a lot of muck around just to get that. It's a shame that the original Switch was so hackable. It's like ridiculously hackable. That's kind of causes this consequence. So that was the only big thing that I was going to shout out as well. Was there anything else that you had? No.
No, I think that's time to wrap up the big sizzler.
The big sizzler. Not sure if that's going to stick. I know maybe we need to have brackets. Buffet. So yeah, next week you're going to cover JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. I don't think there's any other major gaming things that we know on the horizon. Last of Us Part 1 comes out on this week. So that's going to be fascinating to see how that lands with everyone. Yeah, like, I don't know, man. I'm going to be super fascinated to see how people review that game.
I'm sure it's probably going to be great, but the fact that, we were talking about it, just the cost of that game is just kind of just ridiculous.
Best price you can get in Australia is like $100, which is a lot for a game that's like, I know it's a remaster and there's a lot of work, but yeah, it just seems a bit strange to me.
Yeah, I think there should almost be like a rule where like remakes shouldn't be like, it's almost like an unwritten rule. They shouldn't cost like more than what the original game did, But
yeah, and like one thing I'll call out is there's an example, and this is why I'm really going to be fascinated to see how this game gets reviewed and everything like that, right? So God of War 3 came out, PS3, super acclaimed game, like 92 on Metacritic, which tells you something, doesn't tell you everything. Then the PS4 version, which came out pretty shortly after it, the God of War 3 remastered version.
Which is the one I'm playing.
Which, when I talk to people about it, they go, it's amazing. It's like the best version of it. Yeah, like that's the version to play, right? That got 11 points less, 81 out of 100 on the PS4, right? And I actually went back, being the weird nerd that I am, and read some of the reviews because I think there's a lot of parallels with Last of Us. And people are just like, why did they do this? It just came out. Like, it seems like, and literally they're like, and for the price, the fact that you're paying more than what the original was.
Was PS4 backwards compatible with PS3 at all?
No. PS3 is super incompatible.
Yeah, so the reason I would say that is like, if you wanted to play that game on the new system, then you had to buy that version, whereas you can still play The Last of Us remastered on your PS5.
Correct. So. And like, and dude, you should actually, you're not going to do it, but you should read some of these God of War 3 remastered reviews. It's like, you could copy and paste Last of Us Part 1 and, replace that over God of War 3 remastered. Because people were like, I look at it side by side and it's really hard to tell which one's better or worse. It's like a debate. One's better than the other. The original looks amazing still. Like people are just blasting it. And I'm like, wow. I've been flagging this, that I feel like Sony is going to get the screw turn on it a little bit with some reviewers. Like, I don't expect Ragnarok to blow the lights out from a review stance. And yeah, I'm going to be really fascinated to see how people review Last of Us this week, Part 1, because it's in their hands. They all have it now. But I don't know. I'm just getting a feeling that people are going to look at it and go, yeah, it's Last of Us. Like, Last of Us is great. Like, should this cost $125 in Australia? Like, it seems a bit far-fetched. But we'll see.
Interesting, just the last thing on The Last of Us is they actually removed the more difficult trophies in this version. So there's no hard difficulty or whatever they called it, trophy. I don't think there's a New Game Plus trophy as well. They basically made it more accessible from a trophy standpoint as well. So interesting.
Well, that's almost wokeifying it, isn't it?
Don't. Well, go work. Get broke, come on, man.
Well, but dude,
come on, man.
But this is becoming a big thing in gaming where it's infiltrating the studios, where people are like, games shouldn't be so hard that people can't beat them. And I'm like, I don't know about this, man. I'm very comfortable that there are games out there that I can't beat. Like, I'm fully okay with that, right? Like, I was looking at Dark Souls. I'm like, maybe I can't beat this game, man. Maybe this game is too freaking hard, right?
I watched another Sekiro playthrough the other week, and I'm like, I think it's time. I think it's time to finally play Sekiro.
It's time!
It's time!
Damn. Okay, tell me when, man, because I want to play it as well.
Because it's kind of like, it's weird. Obviously, nothing replaces actually playing the game. But it's like
Oh,
I
you know
now
everything how it works.
it's just like I understand the mechanics so much more from this playthrough that I'm like, now I can kind of understand how this stuff is coming together, and it's stupid because you need to play the game to learn it. But it's like I feel like it doesn't feel as unapproachable as I originally kind of thought, which is weird because I love the Souls games, but Sekiro is just on another level in my head. But
I like, and it's a shame because it's like not the greatest version, but I think it would actually be funny for the show. Like, you know, and we'd have to figure out how the setup works, but I think it would be super funny if you played Bloodborne, like, and we streamed it and reacted, like I was there reacting to it or talking to you or whatever, right? Because it'd be funny to go, this guy is legitimately playing Bloodborne for the first time ever, right? But I think the thing is,
I know where all the items are.
Exactly. I think that would be, there's something funny in my head around that idea. It's like, hand on heart, you could go, yes, I've never played it. I've never played one single minute of the game. And this is me playing it for the first time.
I know. So many people be like, what do I do with the brain of Mensis? How do I do that? It's like, I'll just go here
I don't even
and
know
do
what
this.
those things are.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I'll go here and do this and this. There we go. It's solved. Oh, man.
That would be funny. I reckon I could hype it up and I could say, this might be the fastest first playthrough of this game ever. That would be awesome. All right, we'll put that in the evergreen content. With that, anything else from you, Swinny, before we wrap up?
No, let's wrap it up to save both of our throats.
Yes. That's what she said. All right, bye-bye.
See ya.